The Sportsline Podcast continues to rock and roll, and we appreciate you checking us out on the CHCH and Parrot Media platforms. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Well, as many of you know, this podcast is a space for the many extraordinary athletes, coaches, executives, and leagues that are making headlines in the Golden Horseshoe, and in many cases are making their mark nationally and internationally. Well, in the summer of 2022, the Steel City Inclusive Softball Association went major league by becoming the 51st member, third city in Canada of International Pride Softball. This massive organization represents over 25,000 members across North America for the 2SL LGBTQIA plus community to participate and organize softball competition in a safe and welcoming environment. Currently, 375 unique members are playing in Hamilton and Burlington, making it the largest league in the country, and includes divisions for competitive and recreational athletes. Folks, season number 5 already underway. And to give us the details is the commissioner of the Steel City Inclusive Softball Association, Jeff Lindstrom. This is awesome to have you here. I'm just so impressed with what you guys have done in such a short matter of time. And anytime people are out there playing sports, I love it. Congratulations and thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much, Bubba. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so let's start here. I want to know about you first, about your personal history. I mean, have you been playing the sport for a long time? Did it start with baseball, softball? Your love for this sport?
Yeah, actually, I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, and I played soccer my whole life. So I played traveling, club soccer, organized sports was a huge part of my life. And then after a year of playing in university, kind of lost my passion for it. I think I was kind of figuring out myself, and it wasn't the same as it was growing up. And then I walked away from the game, and about 11 years ago, my partner introduced me to slow pitch softball. We were living in Houston, Texas, and I had never been around that many people in the LGBTQIA plus community before, and it really just gave me an opportunity to reconnect with sports. So from that point on, started playing, then coaching. About 8 years ago, we moved up here to Hamilton, and then decided that this would be the perfect city and place and time to start our own league, because we didn't know anybody here.
Well, and I'm going to ask you that. Why Hamilton? Why was Hamilton? And I mean, it's your home now. Why'd you choose Hamilton?
I was actually offered a job about 8 years ago, and it felt like it was a good time to leave Texas and to try living somewhere else. And we always knew that you could always move home, but you can't always move away. So it seemed like a fun adventure, and I convinced my partner after 2 years of being together to take the plunge and move up to Hamilton. Neither one of us really knew where Hamilton was prior, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions we've ever made. Growing up outside of a big city, I understood that dynamic between like the sister city or the city next door and the big city, growing up near Chicago. And there was just something about Hamilton that felt like home right away. And after about 6 months, we felt like we had community. I always tell people we had 4 people who had keys to our house within 6 months, and there was just this sense of like belonging that didn't exist in other cities I'd lived before. So it was great.
Softball. Why softball?
Obviously we had played a few years together in the Houston League and the Toronto League, which are both member cities of International Pride Softball as well. And then I think softball has a unique ability to bring people together who have played the sport their whole life and people who are just picking it up for the first time. Not a lot of people grew up playing slow pitch softball. And as you know, when people are playing recreational sports as adults, if it's a sport that we've played at a high level for a long time, there's an elevated level of competition. So I feel like this sport is unique in its ability to bring all different experience and skill levels together on the field, and you can position people accordingly. So slow pitch just seemed like the great way to, or the great avenue for bringing people together in that way.
Did you at all? I know you talked about soccer being a major part of your life. Was baseball a part of it too? Or was that a love?
Man, it was like T-ball when I was maybe 3 or 4. I think I played a couple like in the YMCA league, and it was never something that I really gravitated towards for whatever reason. Probably just because soccer took up so much of my time. But later on, once I figured out how to use my hands and not my feet, I just dove right in, and I've loved it ever since.
Because I don't care if it's hardball baseball, Major League Baseball, where guys are throwing the ball 100 miles an hour, and in this case, softball, maybe sometimes 60, 70, 40, could be even some of the 20, 50 mile an hour stuff. That hit, the coordination between the brain, the hands, and hitting a ball is harder than people think.
It really is. It really is, and I think that there's something to say about like physical literacy and, those skills that we learn as children or young adults. But then there's also an opportunity to kind of re-engage and focus on that as an adult. So it's a lot of fun to teach people these new skill sets, teach their body to move in ways that they haven't before, and then give people an opportunity to connect with a sport that they haven't tried before, or maybe sports in general. So a lot of people didn't have those positive experiences growing up, especially in our community.
Well, I think it's fair to say, too, that especially when we get to the ages that we're at right now, we're post sort of high school and the dreams of professional are over, that there's also in these adult sports leagues an opportunity at social too, and that's got to be a lot of fun.
It is. It really is. When we moved here, there wasn't a whole lot in the queer community for us to gather. There were pop-up events at, bars and restaurants, different social gatherings, but there wasn't any big organization that was bringing people together. And so when we started this league, we were hoping to get enough for 4 teams, and COVID kind of delayed us a year or so. But when we were able to take the field in 2021, we had 8 full teams, 112 members. It was a little bit of like a honeymoon season, and it was just the most incredible sense of community, and people were also starved for human connection at that point too. No doubt. So it was really great to just see like there's so much potential here, and I just am continually blown away by the demand. Every year we have more and more new faces, people coming from all over Hamilton, but also Niagara, Toronto, London, just within a 2-hour radius. We have players from all over the place.
Well, you talked about the numbers at just a little over 100, and now we're close to 400. How did the league grow? In essence, in this 5-year period, I would consider that very quickly and a huge jump of numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. So every year we've had a wait list since the first year.
Wow.
And it's really been word of mouth, also through news coverage. So the first year we were in the local newspaper. We had a few folks come out and just tell our story. And ever since, it's kind of snowballed. I've been I'm always asking people how they heard about the league. It's usually either a friend or a family member, word of mouth. Or they were driving down Burlington Street and saw us play. We also have a lot of members in the community who just come down and watch us now because they've just enjoyed watching baseball come back to Eastwood Park so much.
I think it's kind of cool, too, that, you've also, and you talk about other people coming to watch, you've also had, and I don't know how to phrase this, there's artists and there's music people and there's this whole union of people outside of baseball that are all coming together on these. I guess you play on Thursdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
How did that get attracted? Again, word of mouth?
Yeah, absolutely. We are incredibly blessed to have wildly talented people in our league, musicians, artists, people who are engaged in community leaders in every capacity. So often we're able to tap our own community to do things like our jersey design, to DJ our parties, to perform at our season events. And so that's been a really great opportunity for us as well to support each other and to shine a light on all the incredible things that people in our community are doing in Hamilton.
we go back to the social part of it. I mean, I guess it is social, but it's also baseball part too. Was this draft that you guys have? And boy, I mean, I was like, okay, hold on. Now they have drafts as well too. They have that many numbers, but there was a reason for why you wanted to do this draft.
Yeah, absolutely. When we think of a draft, we think of somebody going first pick and all the cameras and presenting their jerseys. The way that we do a draft is all through the lens of safety and fair competition. So like I mentioned before, we do have people who've played ball their whole lives and people who are stepping onto the field for the first time. And what we do is the draft allows us to do a couple things to make sure that people are stepping outside of their social circles and meeting new people that they wouldn't meet elsewhere. But it also helps us balance teams. So if we have really skilled players and we have some brand new players, we make sure that the composite kind of skill level of the team is balanced out. And each year, the margin of victory gets smaller and smaller. So that's an indicator from an organizational perspective that we're doing something right. And so each year, we just fine tune it a little bit more. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful approach that I was skeptical about at first, but admittedly, it's been one of the best decisions we've ever made.
And in some ways, too, I mean, because we talked about this earlier, and the fact is, there are always going to be people that just want to go out there, play a sport, have a beer, and chuckle after. And then there's some people that think it's the World Series, right? Like,
exactly.
But there is a need to sort of separate those two crowds, and you do have the separate divisions.
Yeah, we do. And so we have Sunday is more of our community-minded recreational league. Anybody can play in it. And then Thursday is what we call it our Thursday night league, but it's our competitive division. And there's not a minimum threshold for that. It's just really people who want to improve, get better, who maybe are more competitively inclined. And so people often play in both leagues on Thursdays and Sundays because they just can't get enough.
Right.
And so we really want to make sure that in all the decisions that we make, that we do support those people who just want to show up, hang out with their pals, have a beer, eat a hot dog, and then, go back to what they were doing before. And then people who want to get better, people who want to play in tournaments, people who, want to challenge themselves each year. And that takes a lot of continuous work and conversation, checking in, making sure that decisions aren't made solely by us in leadership, but asking our membership what they're wanting as well. Right. So yeah, it's we have all of those things in the league.
I'm going to date myself here, but I grew up in my most competitive sports years in the 80s and the 90s. And I could think of people, even at that level, high school, just out of high school, that I knew were gay. And I don't think they had a place to play sports. Correct. I don't know if sports would have been part of the vernacular.
Right.
I don't think they would have felt comfortable in even playing with, we'll call straight men or straight women.
Yeah.
But you've changed that, and that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really resonates with me personally and so many people in our league. And I think a big reason why I walked away from playing soccer at the university level was because of the locker room culture. The conversations that were always being had off the field. People asking you, why don't you have a girlfriend or this? And I wasn't out at the time. And so that got increasingly more uncomfortable. And to the point where it took all the fun out of the game because my head was always elsewhere. And, growing up, I don't think I fit a lot of people's stereotypes of what they thought of when they thought of queer people. And so for many instances, I probably flew under the radar a little bit. But then, as I grew older and, I came out when I was 25, 26, I reflected back on that experience and realized that so much of that was me battling with who I was. And sports just weren't a welcoming space for me, whether it just be kind of like the slurs or, the language that people just associate with, femininity, masculinity, anything that could be perceived as less than. We all are familiar with those terms that get thrown around, hopefully less and less all the time. But that's a very real reality, and I think that what I've found in the creation of this league and participating in inclusive softball around North America is that so many people never even were able to get a foot in the door with sports because of that barrier. Right. You know, there was nobody there welcoming them. There was nobody there protecting them, advocating for them. I've also really had an opportunity to appreciate a lot of our neurodivergent members, you know, who didn't have a coach or a mentor who explained things to them in a way that made sense to them. So they turned their back on it, or it never got involved. And to see them now as adults in a welcoming, supportive space, be able to step onto the field with confidence, with 13 other people cheering them on, you see that just rekindling of, or discovery of a love of sport, you know? So you think of the kids who were maybe a counterculture or grunge in high school, who were, you know, anti-sports. And we have all of those personality types and identities within our league, and it's really a beautiful mosaic of personality. That's
so well said, and because I think of it, and it's all about personal growth. And I don't care who you like or what you do or what sport you like or whatever. The personal growth aspect of it is so incredibly important as we grow into adults and have to make mature decisions. And I've always said sport is the most wonderful thing. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have sports, right? Absolutely. It's so important to me. And for me, when I really think about it now, when I think about the past and to think about people that might have been uncomfortable in the space that I enjoyed, that I thrive on, that makes me who I am right now, it makes me sad.
Yeah.
It really does.
Absolutely.
I got to ask another question too, and because there are a lot of ding dongs out there. I can't say what I really want to say.
We know what you mean.
It is a podcast, but there are a lot of ding dongs out there, right? Yes. And when you guys are out there playing and enjoying yourself, is there any? Do you find there's any? I don't know, people walking down the street or whatever, name call? Like, I mean, have we gotten by that?
You know, we haven't experienced much of that.
Good.
Here in Hamilton. Not to say that it doesn't exist, you know, but I do think that there is something to be said for power in numbers. And when we were thinking about how we were going to structure our league and how we were going to approach safety, protection, and the vulnerability that we inherently have as queer people, one of the things that was very important for us was to be together. So we've kind of adopted Eastwood Park on Burlington as our space. And obviously it's open to families and community members as well. But that's become our home base. And we've talked about having to split up across, different fields throughout the city because we've gotten so big. But as part of that conversation, we're always talking about the safety in numbers. We look out for each other when other people don't. And that is something that is so inherently part of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community that we really hold near and dear. And, we cannot ignore the fact that, it's very common for our community to have maybe a troubled history with, municipalities and or law enforcement. Just if you look back historically, this isn't specific to Hamilton, but many municipalities have that kind of, maybe we're figuring out if we still trust each other. What does that look like? So we rely on ourselves.
Are the walls, are those gaps being bridged, you think?
I think so. Okay. And this is strictly just my opinion. I really feel that,
at least in this community.
Yeah, I do feel like these leagues, because now there's almost a half dozen, if not more, in Hamilton. Many have spurred off from leadership within our league, who've started Queer Hockey Hamilton, Queer Curling, Queer Dimes Basketball. All of those leaders are started in our league as well, and we've all supported each other, lifting each other up, kind of doing events together whenever we do socials, fundraisers, things like that. And there are people who work for this city, people who work in law enforcement, people who have different political views. But I'm a firm believer that the only way that you change minds is through relationships, right? And I can't ask somebody to care for me if they don't have a relationship with me or my peers and my community. And so I hope that softball is that space where people can start to build those bridges rather than focusing on what divides us. Because being a part of this community is inherently political, whether we like it or not. And I really believe that giving us an opportunity to focus on something that isn't too polarizing like slow pitch softball, we can put those differences aside for a little bit and really focus on the things that we do have in common and, be teammates.
First of all, I'm going to say appreciate your honesty in those questions, and I felt like I needed to ask you those because I think they are real and issues that we all, whether gay, black, white, whatever, they're all issues that I think we face and we're all working on as people these days. So, but at the end of the day, now you're 5 years in, right? Yeah. And this community, this league, is playing at a high level, enjoying fun. You must be, you want to pat yourself on the back, please do. Like, you have to be impressed with what you've put together over this 5 years.
Yeah, it's incredible. It blows me away every day. I love the work that I do professionally. However, when you ask me if you were to ask me what I'm most proud of, it's this league. The people who have come in and offered perspective and through relationships, that have changed my life forever. I am forever indebted to the people in this league who have given me tough love, who have told me when I'm wrong and what I can do differently to show me how I can show up better as an ally. And I wholeheartely believe that I am a better person because of the people around me in this community, in this league.
Do you have to go out and get umpires and I'm sure anyone would tell you this of any type of minor league sport. There are many aspects other than just playing the game. There's the lights, there's the field. You've talked about the fields. So much that goes into it, though. And who have you gotten the help from?
It's been really incredible. So we have on our board, we have a 10-person board. One of our board positions is an umpire in charge. And she has been absolutely wonderful in finding umpires within the Southern Ontario slow pitch softball community. So we've got a handful of people there who helped us umpire the first couple years. And then we also got support from the Toronto League, from their previous commissioner and current commissioner. They helped us get started with bylaws, organization, umpiring, and everything. And then we've also trained about half of our umpires from players within our league. So it's been really cool to focus on the here and now, but also about future growth to make sure that this is a sustainable long-term thing. Umpires are very hard to find. And
in all sports now.
Yeah, absolutely. And another
thing.
Who
wants to be yelled at?
Nobody. Well, I think it takes a different personality type for sure. It does. But yeah, we've been really blessed with that. We also have 20 plus scorekeepers who are kind of fighting for slots to sign up to scorekeep games. When I tell other leagues that, they're like, "What? That's incredible. We have two." So it's been I'm again blown away. People want to help and participate in any way that they can, and it is totally a community powered organization.
You just said the key word, organization, there, and because what you guys doing at the Steel City Softball Association is just a tiny, tiny part of a big, wide spectrum of people playing this sport in North America. Can you kind of build upon that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started this league, it was myself and my husband, Rich Sullivan, and then our two friends, Ashley Letts and Blaine Perry. They moved from Vancouver, and they were playing in that league there, which is also a part of International Pride Softball. We moved from Houston, which is also a part of the organization as well. And through a mutual friend that we had played with in a tournament, saw that we had on Facebook that we had both moved to Hamilton, connected us and said, "You should start a league." We got together, had a beer at Collective Arts, and that's when we said, this is the perfect time. We were all looking for community. And so we couldn't really find it as easily as we wanted to. So we tried to build it, and I don't want to take credit for building this community. The community was here. It was just the glue that brought so many people together in some ways. And so International Pride Softball is the larger governing body of inclusive softball in North America. There's 55 member cities representing 25,000 athletes. And when we petitioned to join, we were the third Canadian city with the support of Toronto and Vancouver. And it was kind of that we made it. We're a legitimate organization. We are part of this larger community. And while we focus on community here in Hamilton, I think it's really important for people to feel connected to a larger community, especially when the world feels uniquely heavy, due to the current world of politics, to know that even outside of your home and your community and your safe space here in Hamilton, there are 25,000 other people who have your back. and sports brings us together. And so it's a little bit tricky right now, but we're figuring out how we can continue to support each other, how we can continue to participate. But so many of those other leagues have served as inspiration, have served as mentors to us, to really help us make, the league that we have today.
You're playing in 3 different cities across the country. Is there like a thoughts of maybe one day like a Canadian championship?
Yeah, I don't. We are having.
Oh, is this a secret? Sorry, secret stuff here. Sorry, top secret.
I'm gonna get in trouble. No, I think due to things that are going on right now, cross-border travel is a little bit tricky.
Sure.
Right, and as a dual citizen, there's some of us that it's a little bit easier for, or it's not as much of a concern. But there's scary times right now, for everybody, but anybody who is marginalized in any capacity, and so. One of the silver linings of that is that Vancouver, Toronto, and us have started to have more conversations about what a Tri-City tournament could look like, rotating it through the 3, because it's great that we're part of this organization and it has done so much for us. However, there's so much community here in Canada. Calgary has a league, Halifax has a league, St. John's has a league, Montreal, Ottawa, and we're not currently connecting with them on a regular basis. Okay. And so I think if our goal is to bring people together in our community around slow pitch softball, there's a lot of work to be done here. And I think that now is the perfect time to do that.
And what people don't know, and what I didn't know until, I had to do some research here, is that there is, at least this year, and I don't know if you guys will be part of it, and hopefully soon to be part of this World Series that's going on, I think in Houston this year.
Yeah. And
I think there's like 200 different teams.
Yeah. So we participated 2 years ago in Minneapolis. That was the first year. So that was a big milestone for our organization. We sent one team, and it was a mix of people of all different skill sets. We had a wonderful time. The city put on an incredible event. Last year, we sent a team to Las Vegas as well. This year, we're not participating because of the cross-border travel.
Sure.
And, so many members within our league are trans, non-binary, gender diverse, and also the tension between kind of the United States and Canada right now just makes that a little bit uncertain. And so this year we're going to sit out, but we're going to support from afar. We have lots of friends who are going to be down there, and Houston's near and dear to our hearts because that's where my husband and I met when I started playing softball. So it was hard to make that decision, but it was absolutely the right decision for us at the time. Next year it's in Columbus, Ohio. We're hoping that things change a little bit.
It's a car drive.
Yep, absolutely. And it's a sanctuary city, so there's lots of conversations to be had. But going back to what I said earlier, these are decisions that we need to make as an entire community. There's something to be said for not participating. And then there's also a form of protest that is showing up in places that are uniquely hostile. There's not a magic formula for that. But if we're continuing to talk, to listen, to learn from each other, I think we can figure out how to participate that in a way that represents this community proudly.
Well, I hope your community, and I mean this from the Hamilton aspect, from the Canadian community, kind of all comes together, because wouldn't it be wonderful to have the World Series here, somewhere right here in Hamilton? Even I'm going to go that far, say right here in Hamilton. We do have the fields.
We've got the fields.
Like it could happen.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful, awesome event that could be.
Yeah, you heard it here first. We do. We have Turner Park, which is great. And there's not many places that have 11 lit 300-foot fields and the accommodations. And so we, in these conversations that we've had with Toronto and Vancouver, that's one of the appeals. It's actually easiest for us of those 3 cities to host a tournament because real estate and land is just so scarce in those denser areas. And so I'm really confident that is in the future here at some point. What that looks like, who knows? What I can say is that participating in those tournaments at that level is a truly unique experience. You see just this passion and community around this sport that you don't see anywhere else, and people just supporting each other in a way that I didn't really see in sports as a young adult. And it's hard to explain. So I hope that we can do something like that, and we can get beyond, these current times. But Hamilton's a perfect spot for it.
I'm pleased and happy to hear that you love sports again.
Yes.
I'm pleased and happy that you have put this together with your hard work. I'm pleased and happy that your community are out there playing sport. And I'm pleased that it's all happening in the area that we live. So I would offer you congratulations, continued success. Like I talk about, I'm going to keep poking you on the World Series again, because this won't be the last time you're on this couch, right? And I'm going to make myself a Saturday or Sunday and actually go to you guys play. I can't wait. Absolutely. Because this sounds like a lot of fun. And to see people enjoying sport, I don't care who you are, what you do, or what you play. I love seeing people playing sport and enjoying it, and I see, and again, I'm really getting a good feeling of the social aspect of it, which of course I really, really like as well too. So again, I do mean that success going forward, and I really appreciate you joining us here on the Sportsline Podcast.
Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure, and I look forward to the next conversation.
Right on, my friend.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your Sportsline Podcast for the day, and if you've just seen and heard, we love talking about sports where everyone is welcome. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline Podcast, I want to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. And if you have something to say, we always appreciate your comments. Friends, be sure to enjoy all the informative podcast news and content that is available on the CHCH and Parrot platforms. For the hardworking people that do make the Sportsline Podcast possible, thank you so very much. And we'll see you soon.